Thank you. That was really good morning, everyone. Pamela will be here shortly, we hope. She had a personal emergency she had to take care of, but she's asked me to get things started today. So the first thing we're going to do is kick things off by looking at a review of fall 2017. Sound? Let's start it over. Yeah, we're still getting the sound, aren't we? Are you getting the sound out there?
Slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping into the future. I wanna fly like a falcon to the sea. Fly like a falcon, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like a falcon till I'm free. Oh Lord, through the revolution, feed the babies who don't have enough to eat, and shoe the children with no shoes on their feet, and house the people living in the street. Oh, there's a solution. I wanna fly like a falcon to the sea. Fly like a falcon, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like a falcon till I'm free. Fly through the revolution. 'Cause time keeps on slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping into the future. I want to fly like a falcon to the sea. Fly like a falcon, let my spirit carry me. I want to fly like a falcon till I'm free. Fly through the revolution. Time keeps on slipping into the future. Time keeps on slipping into the future.
Please join me in thanking Judy Stokes and her entire team for capturing some of the essence of Dutchess Community College. And today we begin making the highlight reel for spring of 2018. How did it get to be 2018 already? But to get us started, I'd like to formally introduce a new member of the executive team, Vice President of Administration, is a critical role for the college, and we feel very fortunate that Dr. Milton Santiago has joined us. Dr. Santiago has spent time at community colleges in Massachusetts. He was at CUNY, both at Lehman and at the College of Staten Island, and he also is the proud father of a Dutchess graduate. He began at Dutchess on January 4th. I want to introduce him and give him an opportunity to say hello to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. So, I want to say that it's a real pleasure for me to be here in this new role here at Dutchess Community College. This is an institution that I have been observing for some time because my daughter graduated from here, but I also had another son that attended the university, and while he didn't graduate, attended the college. While he didn't graduate, I've become familiar with the institution. So it's a real pleasure for me to be here. One of the reasons why I really wanted to apply for this position is because when I saw the values that this institution has are values that are extremely important to me and have been throughout my career, even before they became sort of like themes around higher education. Because I began my career as a counselor in an EOP program in New Jersey, and I'm also a graduate of an EOP program from SUNY Binghamton. So, values like access, diversity, collaboration, accountability, excellence. Those are values that are near and dear to my own heart, because that's what I used when I was a counselor in terms of trying to push students forward. And I know that that happens here because from the stories that my daughter told me of all the assistance that she got here, I know that this is an institution that its employees care a great deal about their students and they want to see them succeed. So I want to be a part of that team, and I want to be a part of you and in this community. Thank you today.
So we all know that an institution works best when all of its constituent parts work together. That's going to be sort of a theme for the day. This morning, the leaders of our student government, CSEA, PSO, and DO are all here, and they're going to spend a moment welcoming you. So, Lily, I know I saw you here. Okay. Would you come up and speak to the group?
Hello, everyone. My name is Lila Fitzmiller, and I'm the Student Government Association President and Student Trustee here on the Board of Trustees here at Dutchess Community College. I'm an international student, and like the other approximately 30 international students that we have here on campus, I came from very far away to study here at Dutchess and kind of shape my future. If you attended the fall convocation, actually, you likely heard from our SGA treasurer, Daniel, who's also an international student. What the SGA and I stand for is largely influenced by our incredibly diverse student body and executive board. We have 2 international students and 2 African-American women in leadership positions here in SGA. One of them is also a non-traditional student. We all have fought hard to be in those positions, and I believe I can speak for the rest of the board if I say that it's immensely satisfying to see what we have accomplished throughout this last semester. This past semester, we have held our first international student orientation, widened our horizons by becoming involved with the SUNY Student Assembly, a sort of SGA for all the 64 SUNY campuses, and we have started an active conversation here on campus about the housing problems that international students face. Did you know that we are literally turning students away, international students, because the residence halls are closed over the breaks? Did you also know that in the past 10 years, we have had 3 international students as student government presidents? No matter how small this group might seem compared to the rest of the student body, it is definitely not one that should easily be overlooked. While we are continuing to work on their behalf and on other students' behalf, and we are happy to look at our accomplishments, there is still so much to be done, and I hope you join our efforts. I hope you all have a really great semester and a happy new year. Thank you so much for listening.
Welcome back, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, lucky you. My name is Scott Derby. I'm in the IT department, and Dr. Santiago, you and I have not met. I am in your department, and I hope this doesn't color your thoughts on me. First, this is off script, doesn't count on my time. I work with Lily pretty much every day, and I have to tell you, it's rare that I'm impressed by people, let alone students, and Lily has gone above and beyond. She's one of the smartest, hardest working, most compassionate people I've had the pleasure to have known. And I just want you to remember me when you go on to bigger and better things in life, Lily. So, to the meat of it, what is the CSEA's position on diversity? And before I get into that, I just want to apologize because when I got the email saying that we were going to be invited to speak on this topic, I think I misread it. And long story short, I had to throw away a perfectly wonderful talk on diverticulitis. So, yes, the CSEA wholeheartedly supports diversity. And if you go to our website, which is cseany.org, and you go to /our-mission, you will be presented with the following principles: honesty, inclusiveness, full participation, respect, diversity, open communications, accountability, and fiscal responsibility. Now, regarding diversity, we state we celebrate our diversity and we use it to strengthen us. And Eileen Moskowitz, who is the CSEA Region 1 Human Rights Committee Chair, said, and I'm quoting her, "It's important for members to know that CSEA embraces everyone." Yeah, I'm a lesbian, and I was introduced to CSEA's diversity when I saw a pride flag on a table at an event. When I saw that flag, I felt like in CSEA, I can be who I am. I want everyone of all races, creeds, and cultures to feel that way as well. And we at DCC support that as well. Now, having made clear that CSEA is an active supporter of diversity, I also want to point something out, that words by their nature can be both clear and ambiguous. So I'd wager that the definition of diversity is perfectly simple to pick out on a piece of paper if I showed it to you. But if I said the word aloud, we all may have a different conceptualization of it. So like if I said the word ice cream, we all know what ice cream is, but were we thinking of the same thing? So when our diversity officer comes on board, I believe we're all going to benefit from our clear, specific, and detailed definition of diversity, how it's understood by our community, by our leadership, and what it means to us in practical terms going forward. And in conclusion, I'd like to thank Dutchess Community College for putting their belief in diversity into concrete action by welcoming a group that is rarely spoken of, let alone thought of in academia or in general society. DCC's courage has included the smallest of groups, one comprising less than 2% of the world's population, one who has historically been scorned, shunned, mocked, and even vilified. And while I would not be so haughty to think that I could speak for them all, I humbly and most sincerely thank you on behalf of all the redheads that you've hired over the years and have been welcomed here. And on behalf of CSEA, thank you very much.
I can always never follow Scott, so. Okay, good morning and welcome back to DCC for a hopefully increasingly warmer spring semester. I'm Chrissy Mitchell, chair of the Professional Staff Organization. When Dr. Eddington announced the topic for this convocation, I immediately got a bit worried. Diversity is not one of the topics I feel truly qualified to talk much about, not because I don't understand it from an intellectual and statistical standpoint, but that my personal lived experience makes a lot of what I could talk about ring hollow to me. I've lived in one of the least diverse parts of Dutchess County my entire life. My undergraduate experience was about as diverse, as in not, and my graduate cohort was the same. My K-12 jobs were also in my old middle school, and another very homogeneous middle school in the county. My first real experience with ethnic and cultural diversity was when I started working here 10 years ago. But while I agonized about what to say here, that wouldn't sound weird to me. I realized that I, and all of us, can do a very important thing to foster diversity and understanding: listen. The PSO and the college community, especially our students, have a vast wealth of people with very different life experiences to share that can help us both understand each other and foster diversity of all kinds. This is one of the greatest strengths of the PSO and of our college community. I believe that through the PSO and governance as a whole, we can use our vast wealth of lived experience and knowledge to help continue to shape DCC into a college that reflects our values and reflects our greater community. But we need to suppress our natural academic tendencies to immediately start talking and trying to solve problems. I know I do that too. And listen first to people who may have experienced some of the issues we attempt to address through diversity initiatives. None of the issues we need to address are easy ones for anyone to talk about, and we may have a lot of uncomfortable discussions ahead if we really want to make this happen. However, I truly believe we can make progress on our goals if we listen. Listen to our colleagues, listen to our students, listen to each other, and only then can we truly begin to understand each other. Thank you, and I wish you success for the spring semester.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Hall, and I am the Vice President of Full-Time Faculty for Dutchess United Educators. Unfortunately, Mark Condon is unable to be here today as he's still recovering from some surgery that he had earlier last week. So I guess you get me. He gave me some words to speak about diversity, so I'm just going to read those to you. These are from Mark. Approximately 10 years ago, I recall sitting in PSO meetings and periodically discussing one of the challenges that faced our college, namely, the lack of diversity among our faculty and staff. At that time, some members of the college community refused to even acknowledge this problem, much less discuss an attempt to ameliorate it. This lack of diversity among faculty and staff was reflected in other areas of the college at that time. But now, in 2018, things are changing for the better, and this is the result of thoughtful consideration and work by many members of the college community, including DO members. For example, DO members are responsible for developing and maintaining curriculum. This curriculum can only be valuable to our students, though, if it is relevant to them. With increases in the diversity of our student body in recent years, our curriculum and its delivery must be meaningful and accessible, and DO members have done an outstanding job in being sensitive and responsive to this important need. Over the years, the number of DCC students with different learning and communication styles has also increased, and the college, with significant participation from DO members, has responded. For example, our Office of Accommodative Services is not only a valuable resource for our students with learning differences, but also a rich source of information for faculty to help us better understand and support our students. Another role of DO members at DCC is to participate in screening committees for new faculty and professional staff, and in the promotion and tenure process. In recent years, greater attention has been shifted towards hiring and retaining diverse colleagues. Again, this enriches and strengthens all of our experiences at the college and makes DCC a more interesting place to work. It is noteworthy that the majority of members of the college's Diversity Council are DO members, providing yet another avenue for DO to positively impact our work environment. Finally, it should be noted that DO deeply values the diversity of opinions and perspectives amongst its members. A medley of viewpoints on a particular issue can be used to benefit the organization. Constructively presented heterogeneous opinions stimulate discourse, growth, and progress. DO strives to be open to and to foster such diversity among its members' views, and we hope that this ultimately leads to a richer, more diverse, and more inclusive college community. And welcome back.
Thanks, everyone. When you came in this morning, I hope you picked up one of these bracelets. I think the planners for today's event wanted to distribute something that would reinforce the connection among us and act as a reminder of the fundamental values that we share, hence DCC open doors, open minds, and open hearts. If you haven't taken one, I believe they're still at the back of the room, so please feel free to take one. The mission of community colleges has always been about open access. Over the last few years, that conversation has shifted because it's not really just about access, although we are an open admissions institution, but it's also about the success of the students who come to us and about making sure that they progress towards their degree and that they graduate. So the open door is really just the beginning, and we need to help our students find that ladder to success that they're looking for. So in addition to education and services, it's also incumbent on us to offer compassion and understanding for to all of our students and work to simultaneously open their hearts and their minds. Today's program is a result of the conversations and work of the Diversity Council. Would the members of the Diversity Council who are here please stand and be recognized? Please. I know that the entire college community thanks them all for their service and work that they're doing to move our institutional agenda forward. This past fall, half of the Diversity Council worked on the development of a Chief Diversity Officer position description, and the other half worked on the plan for today's convocation. It's harder than you might think, they tell me, to plan a program that will appeal to most, if not all, of the people in the audience. These are Pamela's words. You're an opinionated group, and rightfully so. Some of this are her words, some of those are mine. Those were hers, just so we're clear. I know that Pamela also wanted you to know that the most recent institutional data indicates that after several semesters of incremental progress in reducing the difference in success measures between groups of our students, our fall data unfortunately indicates that there is a disappointing widening of the gap. This gap we sometimes refer to as the achievement gap. More recent conversations nationally refer to it as an equity gap, but regardless of whether we call it an achievement gap or an equity gap, it is still the difference between the achievement of our students of color, especially African American males, and the rest of the college population. Data are important because they focus our attention on things that matter to us, and we've collectively decided, as part of our strategic plan, that the group of students for whom there is a gap should be one of our focuses. But when it's all said and done, data are just numbers. So whether we describe it as an achievement gap or an equity gap, the fact is we have a responsibility as an institution and as individuals to study the matter, look for solutions, test strategies, and try to improve outcomes for all students. So after much discussion about how to best approach this morning, the Diversity Council was inclined to put a face to the gap, or a face to the data about the gap that we've been looking at now for the past several years. So this morning we're going to hear personal stories of struggle and empowerment, the lived experience of individuals. We are rightfully interested in our data at Dutchess, but we can't forget that it is the people represented in our numbers that we care about. Paula Lakshan, member of the Diversity Council, who brought the presenters to our attention, will be introducing them. And I know I saw her here. There she is. I'm going to turn this over to Paula and TMI.
Hi, good morning. I'm Paula Lakshan, and I'm a member of the Diversity Council, and we were tasked with coming up with something creative to start off this spring semester. And after meeting a few times, we came up with the idea of TMI, which is going to be our morning presentation. And I'm going to introduce TMI, Eva Tenuto, and she is the executive director of TMI, which is a nonprofit organization offering transformative memoir workshops and performances in which storytellers divulge the parts of their stories that they usually leave out, therefore too much information. TMI project aims to incite social, legal, and political change by arming activists with the skills needed to be captivating storytellers and by amplifying the voices of populations whose stories often go unheard. In the last 7 years, Tenuto has brought the organization from her living room to the UN and many places in between. And through TMI Project, Tenuto has led over 70 workshops and staged performances by nearly 1,500 participants, which have presented to audiences of more than 25,000 people. She's the editor and director of multiple solo shows, one which won the Best Comedic Script of 2014 in the United Solo Festival. Eva's own true stories have been published in many anthologies, and you can learn more about Tenuto and TMI and their fine work if you visit the web. So it's my pleasure to introduce the director of TMI and my friend, Eva Tenuto.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paula. Thank you to everybody at Duchess for having us. Has anyone here ever been to a TMI Project performance? 3 people. I love getting a new crowd. You guys are in for it. So I'll just give you a little history. I grew up being a secret keeper, which is why I understood the value in being able to finally share your secrets. Just briefly, I'll let you know that when I was 11, I listened in on a phone call that I should not have listened in on, and I found out that my mom had a child before me. I had been the oldest up until that point, that she gave up for adoption and that she was starting to look for again. And I had 2 other sisters who were younger than I was, and we never told them that I found out. So I was the only kid who knew that there was a child missing from the table. I was the only one who knew why my mom was sad every May when his birthday rolled around. And I really struggled holding all of that information, that too much information inside. It ended up for me becoming years, decades of addiction. And I ended up getting sober about 13 years ago. Within that time frame of all the years of addiction, I also developed theater companies. I got my master's in education. I ran workshops that were very similar to TMI, but had not totally taken shape yet, but they were the seeds that were planted along the way. And when I got into recovery, the thing that I loved the most about it was hearing people's stories. Hearing stories about people who had gone through something similar that I had gone through and was struggling to get out of, and finding out how they did it and being able to hold on to their hope for dear life. And it changed me. And after I got sober, it just turned out that I was invited to be the director of the Vagina Monologues for an organization in Ulster County to help raise money for United Way's program, Raising Hope. And I directed that show, and we raised $20,000 in a weekend for them. And so the following year, they asked me if I would do it again, and I did. And we raised another huge amount of money for them again. So the third year, they asked me if I would do it again. And I said, you know what, you guys, I love this show, but I am frankly vaginaed out. Like, I can't do it again. Can we please let us tell our own stories this year instead? And so the group of us sat in my living room, and we wrote our stories, and we didn't have a theme anymore. We were no longer just telling stories about our hoo-has. We were talking about all different things. And so we tried to figure out what was this theme now? What was the theme that brought us all together? And it was that we were all being willing to share the part of the story that we usually leave out, the part we don't tell because we're too ashamed or embarrassed to share it. And we were all doing that. And so I could tell that we were kind of onto something as we sat together and shared our stories in my living room. But when the readers stepped on stage and shared their stories with the audience, and I saw what happened to the audience, I knew we were onto something special. After the show was over, everyone was talking to each other. I heard reports later that people told each other stories on the way home that they had never talked about before. I remember one story from that first show. A woman came with her 14-year-old daughter whose father had passed away a few years earlier. She was just going downhill. She wasn't accepting any help. She was just going in a bad direction. She couldn't get her into therapy. And after she came and saw other people brave enough to share their stories and their struggles, she was willing finally to talk to her mom. They stayed up until 3 o'clock in the morning that night, and she started therapy shortly after. And I thought, we have to keep doing this. This has a contagious effect into the community. It was contagious truth-telling rippling out. So we did it for a couple of years just to the general population. And as we were teaching, we saw this has a really consistent transformational impact on the storytellers who get to have all of this space freed up when they finally let go of that story that's been stopping them from reaching their full potential, and also on the listeners alike. And so we started a community outreach initiative and started working really specifically with populations who don't often have a chance to tell their stories or be heard. We just finished our 10th 10-week writing workshop at the Mental Health Association of Ulster County, working with adults who have mental illness. I didn't even realize it until I started working there, how often I've heard professionals talk about people who struggle with mental illness, but I had never heard someone with paranoid schizophrenia or bipolar disorder stand in front of people and say, this is what it feels like for me. It was so empowering to be able to hear it from the person who experienced it themselves. And we've gone on and done lots of different things. As Paula mentioned, we had gender activists from all over the world fly into New York City and take a workshop and perform their stories at the United Nations during the Commission for the Status of Women. We're now working in partnership with an organization called A Call to Men with the Kingston High School football team, talking about the cultural expectations of masculinity. They're going to be performing, the football team will be performing their stories next week for the 8th grade class that's coming into the high school. And a lot of other things. We're working a lot now on social justice issues. And one of the things about social justice movement building is storytelling is always a part of it. We always have to hear from people's stories. The one thing I wanted to say about today is we're presenting stories that deal with lots of different issues that the Diversity Committee wanted to talk about race, gender, sexuality, class, living with different disabilities, having mental health problems that we struggle with and overcome. And what I'd like to say is that it's important to remember that no one is representing a group of people. We're telling one individual story. We're not experts on any of those issues. We're not experts on race or class or disability. We're just experts on storytelling. And so when you're listening, think about the individual person who's lived the experience. We're going to have 5 stories, then we'll have an intermission so you can stretch and pee, and then we'll come back and have another 4, and then we're going to do a Q&A. I always like to let people know that because you might be thinking of questions that you'd like to ask. We let you ask anything that you'd like, and our storytellers are always allowed to say, I'd prefer not to answer that, and then we can just have open conversation. You don't have to worry about whether it's too personal or not. So, with no further ado, I'm going to start the show with my wife and co-founder of TMI Project, Julie Novak.
Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Thank you all for being here, and I want to thank DCC for increasing their awareness around diversity and visibility for different groups that haven't always been really fully represented. And I really hope that a good majority of you guys stay for the workshop because it's really terrific, very transformative, and I think that you'll really all get a lot out of it. So I'd like to begin. Would you believe with a rack like this, there are still people who can't tell if I'm a boy or a girl? Children ask outright while adults just stare at me in the ladies' room or fumble to find the right pronoun. Perfect example, Ponderosa. 2000. Standing on opposite sides of a buffet table, an older gentleman and I reached for the roasted chicken at the exact same moment, bumping hands. Oh, excuse me, sir. Ma'am. Yes, sir? Never correcting him, I walked back to my table, leaving him paralyzed and confused, wondering if the roasted chicken really is roasted chicken, duck, chicken, duck, sir, ma'am, sir, begawk, quack. Even before I am born, my gender is a subject of speculation. Sometimes I think it began as a battle of wills between Mother Nature and my mother. I've never been able to decide who was stronger. You see, at some point after my older sister turned 2, my mother decided that her firstborn daughter needed to have another little girl to play with. So rather than organize a play date or go to the park, my mother, in her own mad scientist way, declared, "I'll make one." From early on in the pregnancy, however, her obstetrician is quite certain that she's going to be having a little boy. "Oh, no, no, no," my mother insists. "I'm making a girl baby." Regardless of her doctor's certainty, her commitment to making a girl holds steady until the actual delivery. As the doctor removes me from the tiny laboratory, also known as my mother's womb, he triumphantly declares, "Say hello to your little football princess." And that, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, is how my life begins. Football princess seems like a fitting moniker, except for the lace dresses, which I literally tear off my body. Who am I kidding? I don't want to be a princess. I want to be a mechanic. At 3 years old, I show up at our house one afternoon with a very heavy Craftsman toolbox made of steel, something a mechanic might own. "Julie, where did you get the toolbox?" "Julie, what? Whose house did you get the toolbox from?" Still unable to speak, I stare up at my mother in silence. But what I'm really thinking is, shouldn't I have always had this toolbox with me, Mom? Isn't it, in fact, mine? Aren't these my wrenches and pliers and screwdrivers? Aren't I the true craftsman here? Surely, this is what I was thinking as I wandered into Mr. Stevenson's garage and first laid eyes on this priceless treasure. Forget about G.I. Joe, now this is my speed. It's time to put away childish things. After all, this seems like the logical step in my career. I already host my own home improvement show in my bedroom late nights after everyone's gone to sleep to a captive audience of 2 teddy bears and a Stretch Armstrong. I profess, now this is honestly the best way to protect your home from the harsh New England winter while transforming the beautiful look. I approach my dresser with a tub of Cool Whip. There you go. Now apply a nice and even coat and sit back and let it set. It's just that easy. The show is a rousing success. By the following morning, the Cool Whip forms a thick shellac over the front of the dresser, where it remains mostly intact years and years later. To the family, it's a reminder of my foolishness, but to me, it's foreshadowing of my brilliance. At 6, I'm across the street with my brother hanging out at Stephen Orland's house. The 3 of us are going head to head, racing Matchbox cars down the driveway at top speed. I imagine myself as A.J. Foyt, the real driver of the remote control car I got that Christmas. Foyt comes around the turn, he passes Petty, he passes Unser, that's it, he wins again, the Indy 500 for the 2nd year in a row! my two best friends, Kristen Pierce and Allison Bright, go by on their bikes. They circle the block a couple of times, but for some reason they never stop to get in on the action. About an hour or so later, I am proudly walking back across the street when they ambush me. We need to talk to you. Shit. They sit me down at a picnic table, the two of them on one side, me on the other. This isn't going to be good. What were you doing over there? Playing with toy cars? That is not what girls do. If you want to hang out with us, you have to stop acting like a boy. Interesting. Allison didn't seem to mind me acting like a boy when we were making out at the sleepover last Saturday. But still, I don't want to risk getting made fun of. Note to self, put playing with Hot Wheels on the list of stealth activities. From that moment on, I began to quietly insert my boy into more socially acceptable activities like Halloween. One year as a SWAT team member, and in 5th grade, as a hobo with a fabulous 5 o'clock shadow. I develop a rich fantasy life in which all of my sister's friends have crushes on me. And I spend a lot of time looking in the mirror, perfecting this Hollywood hunk look I've created. For hours on end, from behind the locked door of the bathroom, I mouth to myself, "Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going?" This does never leave this cafeteria, okay? While other girls long to fill their training bras, I wait patiently for my mustache to come in. Fast forward 1988, a year of many significant cultural milestones in American history. Milli Vanilli released their first album. Ronald Reagan endorses George H.W. Bush for President of the United States. Prozac is introduced as an antidepressant, probably as a result of the latter. Yours truly, I get my first job working at McDonald's. Yes, working at McDonald's is seriously cool for a 14-year-old growing up in Stowe, Ohio. This was long before Super Size Me. Nobody knows how hamburger is really made or the amount of calories in a large Coke. This is an age of prosperity. I get to make money, hang out with my friends, and get dibs on menu items like the Southwestern McStyle McBurrito sandwich. But most importantly, I get to work the drive-thru. This is where I begin my lifelong love affair with the microphone. Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order, please? Would you like to hear about our special, a double quarter pounder with cheese? No. I just want to get 2 Happy Meals with, we got apple pies and fries, buns with sesame seeds. You can have anything you like. How about a McDLT? No, thanks. We just want 2 happy at McDonald's. Welcome to McDonald's. Never mind. I gave Burger King quite a lot of business that year. But everywhere I turn, the rewards are abounding, and I realize it was totally worth spending all those hours learning the ins and outs of how to package fries correctly or combine the exact ratio of sanitizer to water in a mop bucket. It was after this long orientation that I am awarded my uniform. Oh, God, that uniform. A pair of milk chocolate colored slacks, and a short sleeve white blouse with green pinstripes, the collar of which is fashioned by a green bow tie a la Colonel Sanders, topped off by a matching hunter green visor. Surely something I would never, ever be caught dead wearing. But oh my God, I look fucking great! The uniform happens to fit me perfectly. I take another moment to admire. Hey, would you like fries with that shake? Shake, shake it, don't break it. Took your mama 9 months to make it. Say what? For the first time in my life, I notice my body, and I am very impressed with what I see. The uniform fits me perfectly. I notice how slender my legs are, the just right size of my breasts, my fit and trim torso, my broad shoulders. Damn, I look good. I have a hot girl body. This comes as a total shock to me because I spend all my free time daydreaming about being a stocky, blonde-haired doctor that I see on General Hospital. I'm the man who saves the day. I'm the man all the ladies get sick over. Who knew under all that man was all this woman? I fall asleep in the uniform that night with a smile on my face, grateful for the body God gave me. Something my mother taught me from early on. Be thankful for a strong and healthy body. Be thankful you have 10 fingers and 10 toes and can run and laugh and play. And I am grateful. Though there have been some times along the way when I thought, maybe it would have just been easier to have been born a boy. I realize now that there are so many benefits of being exactly who I am. It's okay for me to be sensitive and express my feelings openly without being called a fag. I don't have to worry about male pattern baldness or how big my vagina is. My boy has finally met my girl, and they love each other. I stopped seeing myself as one or the other. I'm just Julie. And ba-da-da-da-da, I'm loving it. Hey, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Markel Mosley. I'm 6 years old, my eyes open just as fast and in rhythm with my heartbeat, which matches my excitement. Today, my grandma gets to spend some of her currency on me and my brother. And what store can beat Payless, where you could get shoes or sneakers for approximately 1,000 pennies? My older 8-year-old brother doesn't share my enthusiasm. He would rather have new Jordans or Timberland boots, although I don't see why. Our grandparents aren't rich. In fact, they're just getting by. My earliest memories shortly after infancy were with my grandparents. I didn't fully know or understand why. I didn't know that my mother and father didn't want me just yet. They would come into my life a few years later. What caused my parents to give 2 little boys up was their battle and struggle and all the problems that accompany that. I thank God for my grandparents and believe they built a strong foundation of morals and values for me and my brother, like turning the other cheek, and sticks and stones can break your bones, but words will never hurt you, to name a few. I eat my breakfast, asking between mouthfuls exactly when are we leaving for Payless. I can't and don't want to share the feeling. I'm too happy. My grandma and grandfather aren't bad, they're just the opposite. They're very old-fashioned and not from the Ulster County area, but God bless them. I love them just the same. My grandfather uses the word mannish and eats head cheese and makes me and my brother wear dress shirts and suspenders at school. My brother takes his off. I keep mine on. Right now, I already know the sneakers I want. The ones where every time you take a step, the bottom of the sneaker lights up. My brother thinks I'm a fool, but what he doesn't know is that he may have friends, but I have friends too, and I don't think they will care. Maybe what he really needs to take into consideration is that if his so-called friends will make fun of his attire, then maybe they aren't really his friends. And of course, he will argue this. I finish my breakfast and get dressed, pull on my dress pants and shirt, and fasten my suspenders. I am ready. We climb into the Lincoln and off we go. I try to play a game of I Spy with my little brown eye, but my brother just tells me to keep a lid on it. I comply because even my grandparents are getting tired of my ranting. We get to the store and I go straight to where my every step light up sneakers wait. I even try them on, already knowing my size. I know they will fit. My grandma ends up paying extra, but it's still not bad. I still feel like we made out. And when I say we, I mean my grandparents and I, brother excluded. He sulks, and I don't want to tell him his sneakers are nice also. It may be a compliment on deaf ears, because he really doesn't want them in the first place. As soon as I walk through the door, I take a seat and tear into the box. I put the sneakers on. I had an idea what this moment would be like, but it's even better than I expected. I can't wait until it turns dark. It's going to be like I have a flashlight in my sneakers. I am going to be the coolest kid in my class. If not, then at least different and noticeable. Even if I am the butt of all jokes, the way I am feeling, I will laugh along and tell a few myself. All in all, Grandma and Grandpa can't afford high-ticket items, but I'm excited to get to keep the sneakers. I'm a kid, and kids shouldn't be too choosy. In the future, if I can't get exactly what I want, I'll accept less, even if they aren't the every step light-up sneakers of my dreams. I will make the decision that whatever my grandparents provide for me is still the best. Thank you.
On my first morning at Greer, a state-run home for children, a girl named Trina smacks my face, knocking my glasses onto the grass. I'm following my new housemates along a path that leads to the schoolhouse when Trina turns to confront me. "Why'd you take that book?" she demands. "It wasn't your book," I say. I'm determined not to show my fear. We've already had this exchange 3 or 4 times since my arrival yesterday. "I told you it was my book," Trina insists. "I found it under the couch," I say, refusing to turn and look at Trina, whose face is about 6 inches from mine. That's when she smacks me with her open palm, and my glasses fly off my face and onto the grass alongside the path. I bend down to retrieve them, feeling my face get hot and my eyes starting to water. But I clamp down the tears because I am not going to show my feelings. "See, that's what you get," Trina taunts. I stay silent and continue walking. Later, sitting on my bed, Shelley laughs her big-bodied laugh that helps warm my chilled insides. Shelley says, "Trina thinks she's bad." Her voice is dismissive, implying that Trina might not be a person to be feared after all. There's also Missy, the joker, who always makes me laugh with her sly disrespect of Trina's alpha attitudes, and Jackie, a large, silent girl who one day attacks me for no reason I can understand at the time. None of us want to be at Greer. We're all washed up here by different family shipwrecks. But I know my situation is different. My situation is temporary. That's what Aunt Peggy promised us the day she brought me and my brother to this place. "As soon as your mother is better," Peggy said, and I hold on to that promise as the rock-solid truth of my life. It's not that I've never seen black girls from poor families before. My neighborhood at the north end of Central Park is very mixed,
racially and economically. 1 block over from our pre-war doorman building on Central Park West, the Frederick Douglass housing project stretches across an entire avenue and 4 blocks from 100th to 104th Street. Those projects are occupied by low-income Black and Puerto Rican families. I learned very early on that those blocks and those people are to be avoided. Those people. Everything about my upbringing teaches me that I'm a kind person who lives in a culturally inclusive world. Yet, I'd see these loud, gum-snapping girls, wiry or overweight, and poorly dressed on the streets and the supermarkets we share, and I'd feel an immediate judgment of their English filled with dats and does in place of crisp T and TH sounds, or the grinding down of the 2-syllabic asked to a smooth monosyllabic axed. I feel an immediate judgment of their speech, their bargain basement clothes, and their behavior. And I know for sure that we have nothing in common. But now I'm living with those girls, those people, sporting my own bundle of bargain basement hand-me-downs, drab clothes made from poor materials. All recognizable markers of my former identity are gone. The places, the people, even the food, all gone. On my first night at Greer, they served pickled pig's feet in the dining hall where the whole school gathers for dinner. I'm thoroughly disgusted. A couple months earlier, I was ordering my dinner from the menu at our family's restaurant in the Poconos. Pork chops and mashed potatoes smothered in gravy, and South African lobster tails broiled in butter were my favorites. One week, I ate lobster tails for 5 days straight until the cook told on me, and I was banned from ordering that dish again. I'd heard about pig's feet, but never, ever expected to confront one on my plate. It's good, Shelley insists, so I try it, and am disgusted all over again. The slick, greasy meat only compounds my feeling that we are all throwaway children, eating throwaway food. I spend 10 months swimming in this sea of not belonging, claimed only by the state and its employees. 10 months is a long time when you're 10 years old. It's nearly 1/10 of your whole life. Gradually, my ideas about all the differences separating me from the girls in my house dissolve into an awareness of the sameness of our daily routines. Breakfast at the round white table in our kitchen, getting dressed for school, walking the path to school each morning, returning home in the afternoon to homework, dinner, and at the end of the evening, everyone gathered around the TV. Everyone except for me. I'm alone in the single room the house mother has assigned me, hidden inside my books. Until one night, one of the girls sticks her head in my room and asks if she can do my hair. At the start of 4th grade, I convinced my mother to let my hair grow long, and she had begun a daily regimen of hard brush strokes back from the hairline, training my curls to lie down. The daily brushing, combined with generous amounts of a white cream called Vitapoint, worked, and my curls grew into long, flyaway strands of hair that were provisionally well-behaved. By now, it's been a couple of months since my hair has been properly brushed or combed. I have a bad habit of only brushing the topmost layer, ignoring the thick mass of hair beneath. One morning, trying to comb out a tangled section of my hair, the comb gets completely stuck. I try yanking it out, but it won't budge. It's trapped inside the bird's nest that is my hair. I fly into a rage, ripping my hair to free the comb. The girl standing next to me at the bathroom mirror tells me to calm down, that she will help me and get the comb out. And she does, easing it through the tangled plaits of my hair with a patience that I don't possess. That night, when Phyllis sticks her head in my doorway and asks if she can do my hair, I am beyond grateful. I joined the other girls in my house in front of the TV for the first time, sitting at Phyllis's feet as she untangles the knots and clumps of matted hair, working in grease and smoothing my hair into soft strands that she weaves into a neat lattice work of cornrow braids. It's a masterwork that everyone crowds around to admire. The next morning, I ask Phyllis to take the braids out because they're giving me a headache. She looks at me for a moment, saying nothing. I can see that she isn't happy about undoing her creation, but she agrees. That night, I'm back at Phyllis's feet as she carefully unweaves the cornrow and combs out my hair, which now lies in soft, obedient strands that she wraps around several large curlers that I have to keep on overnight. The next morning, Phyllis arranges my hair in Shirley Temple ringlets that I now have to wear to school. I know better than to complain a second time, but I feel pretty stupid. Still, it's nice to feel my hair all soft and bouncy. I never have to do my hair again after that first night of the braids. Everyone wants to try out different hairstyles on my malleable hair. I'm grateful for all the expert attention to my hair, and also, although I don't admit it to myself at the time, I'm grateful for having a simple way to connect to the girls in my house. When I tell people about my experience at Greer, they say, "I'm sorry you had to go through that," but I'm not. I'm profoundly grateful I spent a year as an orphan living in a state-run home with black girls I never would have known or been able to imagine in my previous life as a well-loved, well-fed, and well-dressed child riding in a private school bus to a private school with other kids like me. Before this, my own racism had been invisible to me. This was the first time I really saw my othering of people. I will always feel profoundly grateful to Trina, Missy, Phyllis, and especially Shelley. They showed me something important about the world and about myself that I needed to know. Thank you.
Good morning. Life has always been a struggle for me, as far as I can remember, or even before I can remember, as I've been told. My parents were in a time of tremendous stress and fear when I was born, not knowing if I would survive based on my older brother, who was born just 2 years before and suddenly passed away at only a few months old. Hassan Waters is a name my dad would say occasionally throughout the years of my life. It felt as if he was always with me, even though I never met him. The 70s in the South Bronx was no fairy tale at all for me. 90210 was a total opposite of 10456. Drugs, streets, and the survival of the fittest was the life of my parents. Children were an addition, but not always easy to manage as well as create. My brother's death was caused due to the contaminated reproductive system of my mother. The drugs wouldn't give my brother a chance for whatever reason. So 2 years later, there was another opportunity for life in this contaminated system. Me. My chance has come. I can survive or die. What will I do? I fought my way through the crack cocaine, alcohol, cigarettes, and took my first breath on earth unscathed. Where am I? What is this place? And why am I here again? My father answered these questions every day of my life, over and over again. He would say, "You are a leader. This is your world, and your duty is to serve as many people as possible. Protect them and your family at all costs. And remember to leave something of value behind for those that follow, so that those that follow can have a head start and don't have to repeat your mistakes. He continued by saying, regardless of my life and my toxic lifestyle I chose, you do not and will not be anything like me. And repeat any of my negative actions. You are better than anything I will ever be. You are my miracle child. I began going through life with a leader mentality, from being the first one to start playing any activity on my block and bringing in the crowd, or simply starting a conversation. As I got older, these activities became career goals, projects, and businesses. I've worked extremely hard to generate wealth financially while using my intellectual wealth from my dad. However, I forgot about the intellectual and spiritual wealth at times and began to focus more on earthly desires and tangible items that I wasn't achieving. One day I called my dad on the phone to tell him that I wanted to speak to him about a few things. Come on over, son. I'm home all day. I'm anxious to go because I wasn't sure how he was. I'm anxious to come over because I'm not sure what he's going to say about me feeling stressed, depressed, and out of it. My goal is to tell my dad that I'm frustrated, but I have a plan to correct all my problems that I'm having with my latest business venture, my125street.com. This is a website focused to bring the 125th Street shopping corridor in Harlem to the World Wide Web and put Black America online. No one has ever done it, and this is my chance to change the world again. I arrive at his house, and my dad is talking about his aches and pains and how his body is feeling because he was recently ill. Not feeling too good, son, but I'll be all right, he says. Dad, I hope you stop eating those pickled pig feet and those pork chops. You know I can't do that, son. So finally I started to tell him about the business issue I was having, explaining how I visited over 500 businesses and stores, and only 4 people actually showed up to the presentation. Then suddenly, as I'm telling the story, I just started drowning myself in tears, because I was so disappointed that I let him down because the venture was such a failure. I couldn't handle another business idea unfinished. What are you so upset about, he says. I raised you to do anything you can put your mind to, and don't you dare allow anyone to deter you from what you want. I don't care about these projects. You made rap records, movies, a magazine, and anything you can think of, boy. Look at me. He pulls my face close to his. I've been proud of you. You're smarter and better than I've ever been. You're my son, and I will always love you no matter what you do. You could be a goddamn garbage man for all I care, and I'll still love you the same. After that, all I could do is say, but I can't leave Rasheen anything. I have nothing, Dad. What about the house I wanted to get you? Jackie has already died, my stepmother, for 20 years, and she didn't get a chance to appreciate any of my success. All these things I've done. I need money, resources. It's so hard for us. I have all the ideas, and I can never get a fair shake. Listen, he cuts me off. You are great. Smarter and more talented than any of these motherfuckers out here. Plus, I didn't raise no quitter. So figure it out, and don't stop till you are happy. That's it. I don't want to hear no more about it. Do I make myself clear? Yes, Dad. Feeling like a 12-year boy that just been scolded, but in a good way, in a much-needed way. Thank you, Dad. I love you for that. Thinking about that conversation reminded me of how unselfish my father was, to put me before him. I mean, who does that? It's easy to say, but he actually does this every day of my life. About 9:30 p.m. on June 27, 2007, I get a call from my sister that my dad fell out of his bed and he isn't moving. I rush over to the house where he lies on his 195-pound body, stiff and full of cancer. I knew this day would come when a hospice rep told me her title sitting in his house caught me by surprise 2 months earlier. Dad, I know that you may look as if you're unconscious for the last 5 days, but I know you can hear me. I love you. And I finally figured out what we need to do here. I don't want to pull the plug and stop these machines from keeping you alive. Although we had this conversation practically for the last 20 years. Oh boy. This is hard. It really is. But I guess I have to do it. We'll wait until tomorrow, and if nothing changes, I guess I'll give the okay. Well, this is it. 32, and it's time to finally be a man. 21, not 21, but 32. I know that you have done everything you can for me. You've given your blood, your sweat, your love, your tears. I cannot continue to be selfish. I have to let you go. If you wanted to stay, you would have waken up by now. Rasheen, Sheena, and myself will be fine. You taught us everything that you needed to teach us. I love you, Dad, and I give you permission to go. This was the last words to my father. I left the hospital to prepare for a launch party for my 125 Street business that I was so upset about before. He actually invested in that company and helped me get it off the ground. As I was about to leave for the event, I received a call from my sister saying that he had just passed away. I received a call from my sister, and although I did return to the hospital, I still went to that event that night. I cried a little bit like I'm doing now. But I paid homage to my hero and also found a new business partner at that same event, which catapulted that same business into a 10-year reign, including numerous awards, mentors, thousands of professional relationships, a new best friend, and even my wife, who is now giving me 2 beautiful girls, one 2 months old. So thank you, Dad. This was your legacy to me. Thank you.
I'm tiny. There's no pickled pig's feet in this one. One night at dinner, my sister asks everyone at the table, if you could, would you rather go back in time to visit the past, or go forward and see what will happen to you in the future? Everyone quickly answers the same way. The past, they say. They'd like to relive the best days of their lives, and they're optimistic enough about the future that they would like it to be a surprise. I, on the other hand, don't respond right away. Of course, I'd like to revisit amazing events from my life, finding out I got the lead in the school play, receiving the cheerleading scholarship, getting accepted to SUNY New Paltz, my first kiss. I would love to recapture those moments, but before I blurt out that I choose to go to the past, I stop myself and think for another minute. Maybe just having those memories is enough. I realize, as someone who battles depression, that it might be more beneficial to see into the future. It could reassure me that things will be okay. Bad days will happen, but that doesn't mean that life will be disappointing. I'd love to know for sure that I'll finish college, get a great job, get married, and have kids. People tell me all the time, things will get better, things will get better, things will get better. but I want to know that for sure. Maybe this would help me combat my feelings of hopelessness. Growing up and into my early 20s, I'm always fairly confident about many aspects of my life. I'm great at making friends, I get good grades, and see a bright future ahead of me as a high school social studies teacher. I have a long-term boyfriend who I assume I'll be with forever. Then one night in 2013, everything changes. That night, my best friend and I meet at McDonald's for ice cream sundaes. At around 9:30 when we're done, I give her a hug, get into my Pathfinder, and drive around the restaurant to the exit. It's very dark. I have to make a right turn out of the parking lot to get home. I look at the red light and at the car in the distance coming in my direction. After thinking for a few seconds, I decide that I have time to make the turn ahead of the car. Apparently, the driver of the other car doesn't agree. I check my rearview mirror and notice the car pulling up right behind me. I begin to feel uneasy. Cautiously, I turn onto a road and the driver follows. I pick up speed and so does the driver. I stay on this main road for a little over a mile, keeping watch behind me, feeling very anxious. I slow down as I approach the road where I live and debate whether I should turn down it or keep driving. Nervously, I signal and swiftly turn onto my road. The car behind me signals too, waits a few seconds, then drives away. Holding back tears, I follow my long road. I arrive home and I feel as if I can't leave the car. I look around the car to make sure I'm really alone and run into the house. I search around and there is no one downstairs. Slowly, I turn my head and look out a window and I see a man's face. Terrified, I duck down and hear my mom come downstairs. She sees me crouching in the corner and is concerned. I try to explain about the car and the face, but I'm out of breath and not making sense. My hallucination of the car and the face are all that I can think of, and I'm still convinced they're real. My mom assures me that everything is okay, but I can't comprehend. She leads me to the couch, but I continue to stay low, avoiding all windows. She tells me that she will go outside to look around to make me feel safer. By the time she comes back in, I'm paralyzed, staring intensely out a window. I can't find words. All that come out are whimpers and screeches. My mom has never seen me like this. She gives me medicine to help me relax and fall asleep. My mind is not clear, but I begin to feel tired. I fall asleep, knowing that this night will change my life. I don't know how mentally ill I am or how much things have changed until a few days later when I got home from Michael's craft store. I've always loved making things for people, so I decide to try making this kind of beaded bracelet from a kit. On the box, there's a picture of 2 young girls making the bracelets. I spend 2 hours trying to make one, but I can't do it. I become so discouraged that I spiral into days of depression and hopelessness. I've never felt this way before. It gets worse. The process of losing capabilities and skills progresses. Within a few weeks, I can barely read or write. That June, I'm hospitalized for the first time for 1 week at Four Winds in Saratoga. It's my first time doing something like this, away from my family and friends, and it's scary. There's a girl there around my age who concerns me. She lashes out often, which is a big trigger for me. When I meet with the therapist assigned to me, I tell him about my worries. "Well, try not to think about it," he says. "Then you'll be fine." Really? That's his answer? I leave there without any diagnosis of anxiety. But my fears are not simply things I can decide not to think about. If I could, why would I be in the hospital? A few weeks later, I begin an outpatient program at a different hospital. The first week is fine, but soon I begin to decline again. My antipsychotic medication has been switched 3 times in only a few weeks, and it's made me sicker. I begin to get worse than I had ever been, and the people running the program don't know what is wrong with me. When my mental health state reaches its worst, my mom and dad go with me to talk to the main doctor. He asks my parents to leave the room, then sits down. "Is it boyfriend problems?" he asks. I'm shocked and disgusted. That's the last day I attend the program. People who don't live with mental illness have a hard time understanding that it's not just an issue you can get over. It has so much to do with your brain. You can have treatments like medications and therapy, which can help, but someone minimizing your experience or essentially telling you to get over it is offensive and frustrating. There are a few more hospitalizations, 5 in total. During the last one, in addition to feeling lonely, depressed, and constantly anxious, I'm also worried that I'm not calling my boyfriend enough to keep him happy. I wish I didn't feel guilty for not being there enough for him. I go to bed each night in the hospital with thoughts racing through my head, never feeling happy with myself. I think about that line friends, family, doctors all keep telling me, it gets better, it gets better, it gets better. That Thanksgiving, that mantra finally becomes a reality. That's when I get the call that ends my 3.5-year relationship. Instead of being sad about it, I feel a great sense of empowerment. In my heart, I know that it's time to focus on myself instead of going through my life people-pleasing. After doing well, I'm discharged from McLean Hospital with a newfound inspiration and confidence in myself. That's my last hospital stay. My experience inspires me to reevaluate my goals. Previously, I had been an education major, but after being hospitalized and seeing a broad cornucopia of mental health issues, I decide that I'm destined to help people with mental illness, either as a therapist, social worker, or even speaking to educate about mental illness in young adults and empower those who suffer from it. I know how difficult the low points can be, but I also know how it feels to emerge with strength. Having hope is a crucial part of recovery. I have found hope, and now I want to give it to others. Thank you.
Oh, let's give another round of applause for our Act 1 readers. Thank you, guys. I didn't mention earlier, but we are going to be holding a TMI project workshop this afternoon after lunch. Dara and Mike are going to be leading it for us. Everyone is welcome. We can customize it so that if 10 people decide they want to stay, we can do the workshop. And if all of you want to stay, we can do the workshop. We have a sign-up sheet up here that you can sign during the intermission. If you do take the workshop, you'll just get a little taste of what it's like to go through the full experience. And no one has to read or share their story. You can come even if you don't want to do that, if you just want to do the writing or get a feeling for what it's like. So I just wanted to let you know that. I'm also going to pass out our mailing list. I'll put them in the front tables, and when you get done, you can just pass them back to the tables behind you. If you're interested in staying in touch with us and finding out about other performances and workshops that we have available in the area, feel free to sign up on one of these, and we will keep you informed about all we have going on. And I wanted to give you some time. It's 7 after, so why don't we say we will start Act 2 at 11:25, and it would be great if everybody were in their seats because it's not really that much fun to read your personal story while everybody's shuffling around. So we'll see you at 11:25. Thank you. stay there. I know that there's still a long line for the women's room, but if all of us could start to get back to our seats, that would be great. All right, everybody. It looks like most people are back. So we are just going to go right into it. We have 4 more stories, and then we will open up for Q&A. And again, after our portion of the performance and Q&A event is over, if you're interested, the sign-up sheet for the workshop this afternoon will stay on stage. We hope a bunch of you will join us. It's going to be a great afternoon. And with no further ado, I would like to bring Erica to the stage. Let's start with a round of applause.
A fucking corned beef sandwich. It's 2011. I'm at a St. Patrick's Day parade with my family, and we're supposed to be having a good time. But he wanted potatoes and carrots and cabbage. We've been together for 5 years, and I'm supposed to know these things. Of course, I can't read his fucking mind. He always expects me to read his mind. In everything I do, I take his reaction into account. I find myself tediously and meticulously putting things where he wants them, as I know that if a laundry basket or the vacuum cleaner is even a quarter of an inch out of place, the reaction from a slight tumble will quickly turn from annoyance into rage. Today we're supposed to be enjoying one another, as if we do that anymore at all. I always thought that arguments opened up the potential for learning about one another in a positive way. His parents are here watching the boys, and I'm not even enjoying myself. We need to be a family, he says. The boys and we are a family. Every day I learn a little bit more about these 2 small humans that I've been blessed to create. It's for the children, he says. He's got to be kidding me. Is it for the children when he comes home after work with a case of Keystone Light in tow? I know the monster that is born out of the consumption of that godforsaken shitty beer. He tells me I'm selfish, unreasonable, irresponsible. I go to work 5 days a week, carry this 12-credit schedule at school, and I've made sure that my child is close to me. So I enroll him in the child care center on campus. We travel to school together. We talk. We figure one another out. Slowly, out of love, a non-toxic love. Now I am standing before a man who is berating me over a corned beef sandwich. I know that look. I know those bloodshot eyes. When he's been drinking, he just becomes a magnified version of the creature who towers over me, surpassing my height greatly by 12 ominous inches. At home, when he is angry at me, he follows me, thundering footsteps at an increasing pace. I'm agile, small and quick. Usually I can move fast enough to find a hiding spot where by the time he has checked all of the crevices and spaces that I can fit into, he's given up and won't bother to continue the attempt to find me. He's still talking about the fucking corned beef sandwich, and I can't stop thinking about all the times I've been here before. Like the time the baby was crying during the night. Our newborn needs so much of the attention. I'm so tired. I love being a mother. I thrive off of being a mother. But a break would be so nice. So I pump. I make sure that everything's ready. Exhausted, I crawl into bed. Baby just laid down in his crib. Toddler soundly asleep. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to sleep. I've forgotten what a full night's sleep even feels like. A few hours in, as always, there's the wailing. The language of a 1-month-old. I'm sure he's saying, "Mama, Mama, come and get me. I'm awake and I need you." So I roll over and I ask him, "Would you mind feeding the small human?" There's milk in the freezer. He grumbles about how he has to get up for work. Appalled, I ask him again, "Please, I'm so tired." "What do you do all day?" he questions. Hurt and sleep deprived, I defend my daily routine. In a quick motion, he's up. He's aggravated and furious. Oh no, what have I done? Why did I even bother to ask? I spring off the bed, I run for the bedroom doorway. I quickly stumble, tired, down the hallway to my toddler's room. The baby's still crying. He won't hurt me in my 3-year-old's room, never. There I feel safe. I stand there relieved. But I'm mistaken. The arm of the man, 12 ominous inches taller than I am, snaps forward, his hand catching me by my neck. He lifts and lifts. I rise. I dangle in fear with the realization that even our children have no impact on his reasoning. I fall silently to the floor. I wonder what we're teaching our boys. When they grow up, will their partners race away for safety to shelter themselves from this conditioned anger? Will my children find entertainment in manipulation? Are they being desensitized to domestic abuse? Will they become entangled with a sense of self that is deeply rooted in the control and abuse of others? When did I allow myself to become so quieted? Somewhere along this timeline of our relationship, I slowly ease into this false sense of comfort. The fear that rises up in me more and more frequently is gradually forgotten when I'm offered the mere consolation of expensive material adornments. I walk past the fist-shaped hole in the wall now as if it's part of the everyday decor in every household in America. The designer purses seem to get larger in correlation to the length of distance I slide, shoved, smacking against the hardwood floors. Shame. I've been quieted by the amount of shame that I feel every day for the life that I have allowed myself to fall so depressingly and fully into. Look at him, still babbling. How long can he go on about a corned beef sandwich? All of these people are staring. What must they think of me? Allowing such disrespect. Wait. Respect. Self-respect. Self-respect. I don't have to be quiet. I used to be strong. I can be strong. Sure, I'm not sure how I got here, but he would never expect me to walk away. So calmly, say the words. I look at him and say, I'm done. Okay. Turn away. Jesus, I'm so tense. Look for a napkin, don't turn around, and you won't see your tears. Self-respect. In this moment, my heart finally finds its voice. Move, it says. He won't follow you. I take a step. Now another. That's it. Keep going. Self-respect. I never turn around. I walk for 7 miles and I never turn around. I know that behind me is the ghost of a woman who hangs her head in shame. She is quieted by fear. Step by step, I distance myself from the person I have come to believe I am. Step by step, I move gradually closer to becoming who I know I am, the person I've always respected.
Growing up in Alabama with Long Island Jews for parents and a birth defect is confusing to say the least. I'm born with a cystic hygroma, which basically in short means I have a ton of cysts all over my body. At about age 6, at about 6 months, I go through my first surgery. I'm wrapped in bandages and strapped down so I can't hurt myself. My mom and dad, they gently tie a balloon string around my foot. I smile as I kick it around laughing. They fight so hard for me. Sorry. As I grow up, I get more surgeries. I'm meeting some great people, though. And I'm about 6 years old. And one of the nurses, she comes wheeling in one of those empty food trays, and she plops down this wondrous dollhouse in front of me. It's amazing. They're amazing. The adults, they're so nice to me, and my parents, they protect me from the darkness that illness brings. I'm blissful in my ignorance. I'm just trying to have fun with it. My hospital gown, it flaps behind me as I ride my trusty IV stand that's still attached to me down the hospital corridor. My mother, she frantically runs after me. No, no, no. But in first grade, there's this little girl, she walks up to me and she asks me ever so politely, if from now on, could I please wear long sleeves to cover up your scarred and deformed arm? Okay, I guess. From then on, I wear the long sleeves in the hot, sticky Alabama weather. It seems to make the girls happy, and that's what I think I'm supposed to do, make them happy. Within a week, my mom, she notices, she asks me, why are you not wearing any short sleeve shirts anymore? Well, the girls at school, they asked me not to. My mom's furious, but I don't get it yet. I don't understand why. I just want to fit in and be liked, and it's pretty hard at this school. In second grade, the teachers, they think that I'm not paying attention, I'm too rambunctious, a bit slow with testing. Turns out, in addition to cystic hygroma, I also have dyslexia and ADHD as well. We don't know if it was brought on by like all the medication that I had to take, or if I was just lucky enough to get born with those too. But the doctors, they have a solution for me. More medication. It's a tiny little yellow pill. It's wrapped in tin foil. Today, we have a quiz. I unwrap the foil, I take out the pill. All of a sudden, I am laser focused, nothing distracts me, plus I don't have to read the questions 3 times to understand them. Whoa, I'm already done. No one has turned in their work yet. This makes me pretty proud. This is what the teachers want, and now I can make them happy too. But I get the quiz back a few days later. I failed. I don't understand. I've never failed a quiz before. Later that year, I'm peeling back the foil again. This time, there's 2 tiny yellow pills inside. More time goes by, and I'm going for that horrible scrap of foil. This one's bigger and blue. My mom, she picks me up from school. She asks me, "How was your day?" I stare out the car window, and I flatly say, "Okay." Nothing more. She looks worried, but I don't feel anything. I stop taking the medication. After the haze of Ritalin has lifted, I am done trying to fit in. The girls at school, they wear their plaid skirts short, their button-down shirts tight. My skirt is long. It's almost to my knees. My shirt is frumpy and oversized. My hair, it's long, it's tangled, and it's dirty. And I am decked out in my grandmother's jewelry. On out of uniform day, I even have one of those little fake lip rings. It freaks out pretty much everyone at the school. I make them feel as uncomfortable as they have made me feel. I wear this new identity as an armor against the world. Sometimes it works and they leave me alone, but I'm still getting bullied. They ostracize me, they call me awful names. Once in art class, they chased me with a stick. They kick me out of places for being a, quote, mutant. And I'm sure there's plenty of other things at this point I've blocked out. It's a constant, and the faculty, they hardly ever stop it. There's this one time, one of the faculty staff, she puts me in danger because she thinks she's protecting another student. The student, she's helping me change my bandage from the surgery I just had on my arm. This teacher, she rushes in and she demands that the girl has to leave, and that I can't do this. What is she talking about? I've had tons of surgeries. I know what I'm doing. By this time, I've had surgeries on my back, on my neck, my left side, my left arm, my chest, and even around my heart. I practically grew up in a hospital. What is she talking about? She doesn't care. And then she proceeds to forcibly remove me with no bandage on, open to a world of germs and infection. As I grow up, I get even more surgeries. It's starting to get harder for my parents to protect me from this bleak reality. The adults, they're not as nice to me anymore. And some of these teens, they're just, well, they're heartless. My parents, they're starting to get frustrated, but they still fight so hard for me and always will. Yet, we start to grow apart because this is so confusing and hard. Being sick, it's a lot of work and it costs a fortune. I'm in my 30s now. I'm just starting to understand what has happened to me and how I've been treated. I try to steer clear of people who make me feel uncomfortable, but I still have to deal with the fact that I am disabled. I used to choke on the word disabled. Because of the stigma, I don't want to be treated as a victim or have other people think that I'm not capable of great things. Now, I'm picking up the shattered pieces of my confidence, and I'm moving forward to find a sense of security. I've had 34 surgeries to date. And yet, through all of this, I've had the honor of seeing people go out of their way to do beautiful and thoughtful things for me. I may not be 100%, but I do not let that define me. I use it to define myself. I am an outsider who has learned to see beauty through the pain. Thank you.
Growing up, there were only a few black TV shows. Shows made for us, and then everything else. Shows featuring people who have our skin color. Sure, there's MTV, but thank God there's BET, because there's a number of music videos, number of videos featuring black music that MTV just can't seem to fit into its regular rotation. Yo MTV Raps is only a half hour a week. There's the occasional black character on your primetime shows. There's the Jeffersons, Good Times, What's Happening. Then in a class of its own, there's the Cosby Show. If you can understand the significance of these shows, it's probably because you're black. You understand we went from moving on up to being as high up as we knew. That's what made the Cosby Show so remarkable. We looked good, we looked smart, funny, wealthy, educated. We felt proud. Or when Roots was on TV. That was something different entirely. I was young and I don't fully remember what it felt like, but my mother tells me that during that week while the show was on TV, you just couldn't look at white people the same around you. I grew up with my stepbrother, watching all the action movies we could, knowing from the start that there could only ever be one character with our skin color in the cast, and that sure as anything, they would die first. This is the kind of thing you laughed about. You'd watch waiting for it, expecting death because you knew that character was of so little value to the story, just like the real-life American story, or how they tell it. But then there was that one movie, In Too Deep, or was it Deep Blue Sea? Too many damn shark movies. But do you remember it, though? It was that one star in LL Cool J? He didn't die first. I'm 15 years old. My stepbrother and I, we sit together watching Deep Blue Sea or just Killer Shark movie number 12, and we're waiting for him to die first. But we're dumbstruck. Someone dies before him. A white guy. What? He doesn't die second either. Oh, shit. He actually makes it to the end. We can't believe it. He survives with his lovely white couple all floating in the middle of the ocean after having survived and killed the shark, smiling with relief, waiting to be rescued. Finally, not only did we not die first, but we survived. I say we because that's how it feels. When the betrayal of your people is so few, so often lacking in depth or truth, or is only used as a means to remind you of your place, you feel like it's a we thing. But just then, just as we're about to cheer for our survival, out of nowhere, shark jumps up and eats LL in one bite. Damn! Just like that. Put back in our place. Wait. I actually think LL survived that one. I think it was a different shark movie. Nonetheless, that was when it just started to change. But too many movies of us always dying to know the difference. The happy ending just doesn't include black people. The stories of our resilience, our fortitude, and our death. We almost made it, but once again, we are written off as the supporting character in the American dream. TV has changed a lot since then. My son knows the joke. We die first. I didn't teach it to him. It's just a thing. But it's different for him because we don't always die first anymore. Luke Cage didn't. Have you seen Luke Cage? Let me tell you that Luke Cage is vindication for all the countless black characters that had to die first. That's how it feels to me. I want more stories like Luke Cage, where we don't just remind the world how greatly we contributed or sacrificed or how many of us died, but instead are a part of stories that envision a world where we just do our thing. Get a raw deal, but stay strong. Gain superpowers, fall in love, lose love, start over, fight corruption and the powers that be, overcome our past, fall in love again, and all to a dope-ass soundtrack. Our people have superpowers. Did you ever hear the superhero Blondina Furtick? No? That's because she's my grandmother. But believe me, Blondina Furtick has superpowers. She grew up in South Carolina. Her mother died when she was only 6 years old of rheumatic fever. At 12, her father died of pneumonia. This is just the backstory. At 13, she was lucky enough to receive an education due to her siblings sending her off to live with a white family where she worked as a nanny and housekeeper. That's at 13. She was allowed to go to the colored high school while she worked for them. Later, she met and married my grandfather. He promised her that when he retired from the post office, he would take her to all the places he was stationed in the Army. And he kept that promise. France, Germany, England, Alaska. Let me tell you about Alaska real quick. My grandfather's all-black regiment complained about their unfair treatment and were stationed in Alaska as punishment for complaining. They built the first highway there. She went on to earn her master's degree in education and library science. She joined an organization to help Americans and Chinese relations through educators and took a month-long trip to communist China. She went to communist Russia under the similar conditions. It was remarkable that she went to so many countries as a black woman at a time when Americans of any color rarely visited such places. She lived in Mount Vernon, New York, and through a life of hard work and activism changed that place. Everyone knew my grandmother. She got free lunches for kids at Mount Vernon by taking the Board of Education to court and winning. She brought Martin Luther King Jr. to Westchester for the first time and then the second time back to Mount Vernon. Everyone knew she could be hard as hell on you, but only because she expected greatness. That love, that way of showing it without ever saying it, because she didn't, was Blondina Furtick's superpower, and she shared it with everyone. You'd say, "I love you, Grandma," and she'd say, "All right." But you knew. She was a superhero. So many of us are superheroes. And yes, we do have the best soundtrack the world has ever known. The soundtrack is one reason why you love us, America. Why the first American fad was the cakewalk, why you love the blues, jazz, rock and roll, hip-hop, and R&B. It's a cultural strength, a song of head nods, what's up, and giving dap. It's a full-body laugh. It is raising our voices even when we aren't mad. It is using profanity because sometimes fuck that shit is just what I need to fucking say. It is speaking with our hands. It is the language with the code switched off. It is the song of stories told. It is everything I both love and hate about chitlins. Not quite pig's feet, but the intestines. It is a privilege. It is going to the movies on opening night, preferably some action movie, with a sold-out crowd of my people talking to the screen, laughing out loud, clapping our hands, slapping our knees, maybe even having to occasionally stand up. Can we please make this happen? I miss it. The comfort of being in the majority, of just sitting back eating popcorn in a movie theater with 100 folks culturally bonded by that soundtrack, laughing together. Can we find a movie and a time to fill the theater together? Everyone can join in, but we won't be quiet. We won't quiet down for you. We will just be us, in all the beautiful ways that each of us so uniquely represents our blackness. Maybe art imitates life, but life also imitates art. Maybe if we stop dying first, we can stop dying first. Maybe if our lives are portrayed with value, maybe we will all begin to see our lives as having value. Maybe if Black Lives matter more on TV and in movies, Black lives really will matter. Maybe.
You guys enjoyed the story so far? Yeah, it's all right. You can clap. It's all right. It's a little type chilly up in here, though. DCC. What's up with the heat, kids? It's all right, though. I wore a little extra stuff just in case. All right. Sorry, I know. Not all sweat like you. Some of you may know me. I do stand-up routines 40 hours a week from behind the counter at the store where I work. The other day I'm at work, and this elderly white lady comes up to the register, and I say, "Hey there, young lady. How are you today?" "Oh, you're too kind. Calling me a young lady? Damn, I'm good." She's already charmed. "Oh, you're not just a young lady. You're a beautiful young lady. You look like you just came from the salon. Your hair is fabulous." I know I'm really landing on, but come on. Nothing wrong with making an old lady feel good while she's buying her eggs. It's okay, y'all can laugh. It's all right. She says to me, "I really like your hat." By this time, one of my regulars, or as I call them, my fans, join us at the register. I said, "You mean my visor?" I asked her. "You like this old thing?" I hate wearing it. Honestly, it drives me crazy. It takes me a good 20 minutes to get my locks up into that thing. She says, "No, the hat you're wearing on top of your head." My first thought, I know this old raggedy chick ain't talking about my hair. But I contain myself. And I say calmly, "You like my hair?" She says, "Surely you jest. That's not your hair." My thought, I know this mother is not telling me my own hair is not my hair. However, I say, I don't jest, and Shirley is my mother. All right. Y'all wild, y'all tough. By now, the other customer is in on the conversation. "No, really, it's her hair. Cool, right?" The lady chuckles and has that sarcastic, "Oh, really?" look on her face. I say, "No, really, it's my hair." I lean over the counter. I bring my ponytail down to her. "Go ahead, pull it. It's really my hair." "I can't do that." "No, please do." She pulls my hair a bit. "See?" I say, "I'm glad that this ridiculous debate is over about whether my hair is actually my hair." But when I look up at her, she has this look on her face as if she still doesn't believe me. "You people aren't able to grow your hair that long. Must be a wig of some sort." Now, Lord forgive me, but she has poked my inner black bitch. What in the ham sandwich does she mean, you people? I do what I taught myself to do. I take a deep breath, but I can't help but think about the way I would have handled this when I was younger. As a young woman, the devil was always ahead of me. I always had a knee-jerk reaction and said the first thing that came to mind. Back then, I didn't know I was combating fear with fear. Growing up from kindergarten to 4th grade, I'm one of the only, if not the only, black person in the school. And there are a lot of kids that never let me forget that on a daily basis. My very first day of school, I'm sitting home from fighting at a boy after he pulls my hair and calls me Blackie. That's just the beginning. There isn't very much protection from teachers or staff. I'm told to just ignore them. However, that doesn't seem to help. So I start asking my uncles to teach me how to fight. With very little training, I'm ready. I figure if they won't stop, I will make them stop. I will never forget this day as long as I live. I'm in 4th grade. 5 boys in my class surround me on the playground. They're pushing me around, calling me names. Hey, coon. Hey, Blackie. Hey, nigger. Why don't you go back to Africa? I'm so terrified. Please stop hurting me. I beg them to leave me alone. I try to run and call for help, but no one hears me. I feel trapped. These boys are really going to hurt me. Then I remember what my uncle said. Grab the biggest one and go crazy. That way the smaller ones will get scared and back off. So when the biggest kid spits on me and pushes me down, I come up swinging. I punch him straight in the throat. When the other boys see their friend is hurt, all of a sudden, no one is laughing anymore. Everyone is in attack mode. I feel as if I've turned into a tornado. I'm punching and kicking. One by one, they feel my wrath. Who's the nigger now? Who you gonna beat down now? I hate all you crackers. Now I'm crying and screaming and fighting. Oh, now the teacher wants to come and help. She screams at me? Stop it, Jess, stop it. Get off him. Get off him? What about get them off me? Where were you when they were terrorizing me? They started it. To the principal's office we go. The boys have to make a pit stop at the nurse's office to get fixed up. It's okay, you can laugh. Now they call the parents to the school. I can hear my mother in the office with the principal. Now, just so you understand, my mother's about 24 years old, married with me, a 5-year-old, and 3-year-old twins. She don't play. I can hear her talking. Let me get this straight. You want to suspend my daughter for beating up 5 boys who attacked her, and because she kicked their butts, she's in trouble? Oh no, it's not happening like this. These other parents should teach their kids better. If they don't want to be hit, they shouldn't hit anyone. Another parent chimes in. I have to take my son to the emergency room. He's in severe pain, and his friends are bruised and battered. Well, my mom replies, you should have taught your son to keep his hands to himself. My daughter was protecting herself, which is something this school should have done. How did it get this far without anyone noticing? These kids got what they deserved. I bet they won't try this crap again. And if they do, I will let my daughter know to protect herself again, since apparently no one here will. As I get older, I find another way to combat racism. I find that if I keep control of my inner black bitch, I can finally get ahead of the devil. When I come in contact with someone with a slick comment or one with racial undertones, I try to fight it with an open heart and a sense of humor while I still stand my ground. Back to the lady. people aren't able to grow your hair that long. Must be a wig of some sort. I look at this old lady. I'm not going to get ahead of the devil. But as long as it took me to grow these locks, I'm going to have to show this woman. So I pull off my visor, and I take my hair ties out, and I start whipping it. Ooh, I'm going to fall. Whipping it. Balance is off. Don't laugh at that. That ain't a funny thing. I start whipping my hair around like a headbanging rock star. You don't think it's real? Take a good look at it now. I lay my locks across the counter like a blanket. Get a handful now and tell me if this is a wig. Oh my. She leaves the store in a hurry. She may have been a little overwhelmed, but at least I didn't leave her bruised and battered. Now, I understand this method is not for everyone. In this day and age of racial profiling and senseless killing of people of color, I can understand people's frustration. But I believe strongly that we as a people need to dig deep and embrace humanity. We have to work to see each individual person and not be so consumed by the color of someone's skin. I'm done fighting fear with fear. I'm combating hate, and I'm done fighting fear with fear and combating hate with hate. At the same time, I can understand people wanting to fight back, like that 9-year-old girl who felt like she was fighting for her life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the show. And, thank you. We love second rounds of applause and standing ovations. The whole thing, will take it. Thank you. You know, the whole point of sharing stories is to be able to possibly raise awareness, to possibly see something from a different perspective that you hadn't thought of before, to be able to identify with someone that perhaps you didn't think you could identify with, because we're all having human experiences. And so I think this was a really great selection and lineup of stories to portray diversity and our shared humanity. And I hope that you felt the same way. So thank you, guys. We now open it up to you for the next 20 minutes if we have that many questions or comments. And I welcome you to share a question either about the process of writing their stories, about their stories themselves, or anything else that you'd like to ask or comment about how a story made you feel, a place you could identify, anything that you can think of. Is there anybody that would like to start? It's amazing how teachers are always the last ones to raise their hands. I just taught a workshop to a group of 4th to 6th grade teachers. They were writing teachers, and they were harder to open up than the football players I work with. Yes. Great, thank you.
No, they weren't able to put me out. No, my mom didn't allow that to happen. There were a lot of angry people, and the backstory to that is the evolution of that is those 5 guys that I got in that fight with that day turned out to be some of my best friends that I have. I mean, I just turned 46, so we're talking about a while ago, and these guys turned out to be some of the best friends that I ever had. They never forgot that whooping. But they turned out to be some really great guys, and it was like a life lesson that they didn't realize that they got until they got a little bit older, healed up a little bit more, and then, you know, they were grateful for it in the end because I opened their eyes to a bigger life than they had. So no, I didn't get suspended because my mother would have got arrested.
I think that often the story that you decide to tell is the one that you don't want to tell, that you think, there is no way in hell I'm going to tell that story. I found that for me, for my story up here that is very comedic, I did not want to tell that story. I was totally embarrassed and ashamed. And I'm an outgoing person, and I'm a performer. In that story, I was like, no, I don't want anybody to know that I used to pretend to be a boy. Like, I just had so many feelings about it. And Eva, the atmosphere of the workshops is such that you feel safe very quickly. I mean, when one person shares their story, it just automatically gives you permission because, sure as anything, I'm going to share something. I bet you everybody in this room, regardless of being male or female or transgender or gay or straight, related to something that I said, and it prompts this invitation to share. So that definitely helps. And the workshop instructors, I also teach workshops along with Eva and Sari, and we've got other teachers here, Dara and Micah, and create this environment of gently nudging to get you to tell more, because it ultimately is going to relieve you. There isn't one person who's hasn't taken a workshop whose life has honestly changed in some amazing way, and that is not an exaggeration. I think really quickly, the other thing that happens is there's writing prompts that we give the students, and one of them is write something about yourself that you think that people won't find interesting. Is that what it is? Oh, that you think everyone will think is boring, and sometimes that's the most amazing, enriching thing. So yeah.
So we do workshops of all different lengths, and so today, this afternoon, we'll do a 2-hour workshop, so you'll just get a little taste. I do believe that everyone here who took the workshop went through a full 10-week workshop process where we do 5 weeks of writing, a week of editing. We bring the stories back. It's collaborative. We do the workshop leaders help edit and craft the stories after all of the free writing has been done. And then we rehearse so that people have some guidance about live storytelling and how to make it really come to life for the audience. I don't know if you noticed in the way that we tell the stories, rather than saying like, this is something that happened to me in the past, we want it to unfold in front of you so that you feel like you're experiencing it with us. It makes the connection much more intimate. And then after rehearsal, we have a performance, and the last 10th week is a follow-up workshop where we all just get to share what the experience was like. So that's the general, but we also do weekend workshops at Omega Institute. We do 1-days, we do lots of different workshop styles. I saw another hand in the back somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, I want to just, yeah.
So this is the second time I've told my story, and it's funny, I was actually much easier the first time to tell my story, as you probably have noticed. We got a little blowery there because this is actually, my mom's watching the live stream, if you're still watching. Hi, Mom. So, so this time, it was so much more emotional for me because it was just like, we know this story, my mother and I, like we lived it together. But this is the first time I was up here and just saying my story that, like, she already knows, but it's, like, different because she doesn't know it from my perspective, I'm assuming. So for me, it was really different this time because before it was just, like, you know, some friends and some family were kind of around me. And it was much more intimate, and this is bigger. So, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, it felt very different for me this time. So, I don't know, anyone else?
And then I'll pass it down. We'll pass it.
So I did the workshop in the end of 2015, and I had been sick for about 2 years, and I only had a handful of friends who knew that I was in the hospital or that I had gone through this. And I was so nervous to take the workshop because it's something that I did not want to tell anyone, but I knew I had to, and this was the way. So I was so nervous, but when I read my piece for the first time, I was just shocked. I said, oh my God, I was meant to do this. I was supposed to do this. And I read it, and my parents said of anything that I had ever done up to that point, they were most proud of that moment. And from there, I've gone and spoken at, I can't even tell you how many times I've read this story. And I've gone up to Buffalo with TMI. I've read for different foundations, and each group of people I read for, I take something different out of it. I'm obviously talking to a lot of professionals right now, so I know that you will all take something different. You might have children that have mental health issues. I've spoken to people with mental health issues directly, and every time you get something different out of it, but you feel like you're making a difference, and that's why I come to do these things, because I know every person will take something different from the stories they hear. So it's really, really fulfilling to do.
No, you take it. I just wanted to say it was funny because when I first was in the workshop, I listened to the other individuals with their stories, and I was sitting there saying, well, I don't have anything as deep as this. You know, I thought I couldn't find this story. And then I began to share based on one of the props, and the leader said, that's it. You need to speak about that. And I was, a bit nervous because it was my father and he had passed away, and I never really spoke about it. So when I did the first story, it was very emotional for me. But now this is my second time as well. And, as I was practicing, I'm like, oh, I'll read it. I think I'll be fine. I'll get right through it. I'm just reading it, I already did the crying before. And it just happens when you read it, and when you're in that moment, like I really went there. I really had that conversation with him on the hospital bed, in the hospital for 5 days, not moving. And as I just recited the words again, it just felt like I was there, so it just took me on a roller coaster, but it felt so good to release it, and I was going to say to you, this really was great, it was a great experience, and I'm willing to do it again, I'm going to be like you and try to do it as many times as I can. It's like medicine here, but it's very therapeutic, and it's definitely great, so thank you.
It feels, my experience with it is, it feels like stages of initiation, and I've been teaching creative writing for 14 or longer years, so I'm always on the other side of talking to people about their material and their stories, and you got to go where you see the biggest blip on the radar, and even if it's scary or ugly. And so for me, when I was invited to contribute something to Black Stories Matter, and we all sat down for workshop, I had already written about Greer, I had thought about Greer, but because of the format, because of the whole context, I brought something to a finer point that I hadn't exactly said to myself, that, you know, what I was doing at that time in my life was mirroring, you know, the kind of racist construct of my own culture and not even knowing it. And so that, even though it was kind of implicit in what I had written about, it became explicit in that. So that was like an initiation. I felt like, oh, all these years, I thought I knew everything, and I didn't quite know. And then the next stage of initiation is, well, there's the crafting of it, but that's still part of the first stage in my mind. But the second part is stepping up on a stage and just bearing yourself to a lot of people you don't know and just saying, this is who I am, and I'm not going back. You know, I'm standing my ground, for better, for worse, and yeah, that feels like an initiation. It feels like a deep imprint on your soul to do that kind of thing. So that's...
I'll say that something remarkable happened for me where, you know, one of the last lines of my piece is, my boy has finally met my girl and they love each other. And that was not the case at all. There was a lot of internal shame and struggle around identity for me, and how to show both those sides without so much self-consciousness. And up until the second, literally, the very first time I told that story on stage, I just was like, this is not going to go well. I just didn't feel like I could own it. But then as I was telling it, and because of some of the methodology, like we put it in the present tense, and the way that you write your story, you kind of can step outside yourself and see yourself as a character in a story. And I realized as I was performing it, I really was enjoying it, and I thought it was going to appeal to people who were on more of a gender spectrum, or more, you know, lesbian, who were a little bit butchier, or something like that was more about me. And the first two people that came up to me were two women who were cis women who were like really feminine. And one said, your piece was amazing because I never saw a 16-year-old girl talk about loving her body ever in a piece that much. And another one said, who was, you know, another really like typical woman, was like, oh my God, I used to do that all the time. I used to pretend to be a boy when I was little all the time. And it became like a total non-issue after that. It became a non-issue. All that space, especially as a performer, I had a lot of conflict around having both these parts, and it came off the table, it was gone. It was completely gone. And then later on, I went and I watched the video, and it was one of the first times as a performer I was like, this is really funny. Like, I feel really good about myself. I feel really proud about myself. And it just was amazing because it was a story that it was so difficult. You know, Eva worked with me on the story, and I did not want to tell it. So that's another great thing about this work. It's just so transformative, and I'm so grateful that I took the chance to tell it because it changed my life. Do you want to say
No.
something? Oh.
They all said what I was going to say. I was like, oh my gosh, he said what I was going to say. So I thought of something else. And I was like, oh my God, he said what I was going to say. So I thought of something else. So I feel like they all feel. But I had just a little quick moment today, because this is the second time I read this for the Black Stories Matter. This is the second time I read this story. I've been with these girls. They've been kidnapping me for a while now, but I love them. And I was kind of in a space where I was like, I came from a house where what happens in this house stays in this house. And we weren't allowed to tell our business, and we weren't allowed to express ourselves. And still at this day and age, as great as my mother and I are in a relationship, I still struggle with some of the stories that I'm worried about if she's gonna approve, or if, you know, it's gonna embarrass her, or it's gonna embarrass anybody in my family. So I continue to stay with these ladies because they continue to help me evolve and continue to help me find myself. I know y'all didn't think I could get that deep. What? I've been practicing. I also do stand up too. So if you guys ever see Jessica McNabb anywhere, come and see me. But yeah, so it's an evolution. It's a constant process that they push you outside your boundaries without pushing you, but you're being pushed, and you come up with something that's just like great, and you didn't even know you had it in you. So kudos to these ladies.
And the sign-up sheet is right here.
So
I think you should take a chance. Take a chance, people.
we have one right here. So we only have a few minutes left, so I'll hand it over to Allie to answer. But I would just like to say we can talk more about the ways that you can use the methodology in your classrooms during the workshop. We will also have writing prompts that we use to help get your ideas flowing. It's right after lunch from 2:30 to 4:30. So if you're interested, we can extend the conversation that way. I just want to make sure that I let all of you go to lunch on time. So I'll hand it over to Allie, and then we'll wrap up.
Hi. So I went back to school in last January. I do it all online through SUNY Empire. I'm getting a degree in Community and Human Services. And I've been really real with my professors about here's what I can't do. Time limits are sometimes hard for me. I need electronic books because I have severe OCD and I can't read print on a page that I can't control how many words are on a page. So they know kind of my accommodations. When I went to New Paltz, after I got sick, I went back for a little bit and I was able to work with the disability office, and they got me some accommodations like extended time on tests or e-reader that other students wouldn't necessarily have. And I just think that my professors who have been the most accommodating are those who are open to different life experiences. And I know I'm not the only person in the class that has an issue with completing things on time. And professors who are understanding and know that mental health is so much more important than a deadline for an essay. And I think that when professionals in schools, you don't know someone's life experience and assuming, oh, I don't give that opportunity to students. I have a strict schedule. With really someone having a mental break after a stressful semester is a real possibility. And to be open and honest with your students and take their life experiences and realize that as important as getting a degree may seem to them, it's worth nothing if you are not in a mentally stable place. And I think that professors and people in school, they do have a lot of power to make things easier for students and understand that health is a lot more important in school.
One thing I always want to add to it too, because I've had the issue of when if I need help with something, because normally I have the appearance of nothing's wrong with me. So when somebody finds out that there is an issue, then they get all like tender and concerned and are you okay, precious thing? And please don't do that. just treat me like a normal person, because I'm normal.
So I think one of the points that I love about teaching the workshop and doing this work, having the privilege to do this work, is that I'm always surprised over and over again when I think that I know what someone's story is going to be. They walk into the workshop and I make an assumption and I am almost always wrong. People always surprise me. We all are carrying around things that none of us would suspect, each and every one of us. And it's illuminating to see all of the places where I can have my mind expand, where I can have my perspective shift as I keep doing this work. So I'm really grateful that you invited us, that you've been an open and welcoming audience, and to all of you for sharing your stories yet again. So thank you. You can find more about us on our website, which is tmiproject.org. I hope that you signed up for our mailing list so we can send you invitations to our shows and workshops in the future. And a lot of our information is very active on our Facebook page as well. And I do hope we get to see a bunch of you after lunch. Thank you.
So one more round of applause for TMI and a wonderful presentation this morning. I understand that lunch is ready, and Amanda is waving. Come on down and get food. But also remember that we're doing the Length of Service Awards starting at 1 o'clock.